Force Awakens is finally out. I just got done seeing the movie tonight. I already posted my initial reactions video. Now I've had time to let it all kind of seep into me. Let me think about it for a minute. Let me go over some things in my head. Now let me give you another more professional, spoiler-free movie review. Let me start off by saying I'm not going to be giving you plot points or anything. I'm mostly going to be telling you what I liked and what I didn't like. But because I'm not spoiling anything, I'm not really going to be able to tell you why. So let's start off with what I loved about this movie and what I liked and what I really want you guys to go see this movie for. First of all, I am a Star Wars fan. I'm not like one of those crazy fanatics that reads all the books and comic books and knows everything about this universe or anything. I'm just more of a casual movie fan, and I've seen all the movies, but that's about as far as my knowledge in the Star Wars universe goes. With that said, I still got to the movie theater pretty early and waited in line for a long time. Turns out I was in the wrong line, and I was like waiting in a showtime that started like 2 hours after mine, so I realized that, and I was like, crap, went into my movie theater, and it was like already packed, but luckily I found a good seat in between a couple people, had a pretty good seat. And you could tell everyone was really anticipating this movie, because the movie was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and at 7:01 they were still showing those commercials before the movie trailer started, and everyone started getting really pissed off, like, what the hell, why is the movie starting? Then the trailers are going on, and every trailer that came on, people are like, come on, movie. And then it happens, you see the whole a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then that opening Star Wars crawling text goes. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting this. Maybe it's all the nostalgia, all the time I've waited for this movie or something. I really wasn't expecting it to happen, but as that started to happen, as that Star Wars text came up, I started to well up a little bit in my eyes, like all this passion, or it was like everybody's passion around me just kind of engulfed in me or something. I don't know what it was, but my eyes started to water a little bit, and I was just like, oh, I was so excited. And whereas the prequel movies, the scrolling text were kind of confusing and talked about tax federations and embargoes and stuff. I didn't know what the hell it was talking about. This movie's scroll text getting you prepared for what this movie is really going to be about 30 years after the last movies took place. It was very simple, very straightforward, and really got you set in the mode for like, okay, I feel like I know what this movie is finally about. So again, starting off with the good. I really loved that simple plot that it laid out for us in that scrolling text. I thought it was very simple, very straightforward, and it didn't really give it away in the trailers what it was about, so I was finally like, okay, I finally know what this movie's about. J.J. Abrams was very good about setting the tone for this movie. It was very serious and dark when it needed to be serious and dark. It was very funny when it needed to be lighthearted and funny, and it wasn't really too much of one or the other. They balanced each other out very well, kind of like the original trilogies did. And I was really surprised by the comedy. Me and a bunch of the people in the audience, we laughed our butts off a few times more than some comedies do. But this is by no means a comedy movie. There are a lot of serious and dark and gritty moments in this movie, and just the overall tone and feeling of the movie I thought was portrayed very well. And it was just visually stunning. You see those shots in the trailer, those big wide shots where you see some really cool things. And there's a lot of shots like that in this movie, and it just looked amazing. The whole thing looked amazing. Also, as far as the characters that I liked, Daisy Ridley as Rey, John Boyega as Finn, Harrison Ford as Han Solo, Chewbacca, and BB-8. Oh man, I loved all those characters. Daisy Ridley and John Boyega, they're obviously the new characters that are supposed to reinvigorate this franchise, kind of the main characters that are going to be pushing this story forward in the future. And I think they were great casting choices. They have great chemistry in this movie with everyone involved. Their acting isn't super stiff or anything, which is kind of what I worried about not knowing who they were going into this movie. But I feel very confident now that they will be able to carry this franchise forward. Harrison Ford and Chewbacca, they felt just like the old Harrison Ford and Chewbacca. Man, they had the same chemistry as the old movies. It felt like they were just thrown back into these movies in a great way. It just felt like they were older versions of themselves, and it worked out great. They were awesome in this movie. And BB-8, basically the new R2-D2, he has a great personality, but it had some funny moments, it had some heartfelt moments, and it's just awesome that this thing wasn't computer generated, that they actually built BB-8. It is so cool. My point is, those characters were awesome. Another thing I got a huge kick out of this movie is, I don't know if you saw my Star Wars theories video. There's a link for it. If you click that eye up there, there's a link to that video. I'm not going to say which things were right, but I got some things right in there in my theories. Some things wrong, but some things right that I just kind of was like, oh yeah, I called that. And that leads me to the halfway point of what the good and bad of this movie, which is Kylo Ren. I'll say this about him without giving anything away. I thought he was a motherfucking badass in this movie at times. And then there was other times where I was just kind of rolling my eyes at the character, kind of like, ooh. And then he'd show up again and I'd be like, oh yeah, Kylo Ren, man. Oh man, they're doing so good with that character. And then I'd be like, oh, I don't know if that's the right decision there. So I was kind of going back and forth with him. And even right now, the parts that I say I didn't like, I can also see why they did things a certain way. So I'm still really conflicted on if I like that character or not. There's definitely aspects to him I love. I love the way his voice sounds, and the way he looks, and I can't give anything away, but there's certain things about him that are just really cool, and there's certain things about him that I just don't like. And I guess that's a good segue into what I don't like in this movie, which is a few things. First of all, this movie does take place 30 years after Return of the Jedi. That's a lot of history, a lot of years to kind of explain how they got to this point. That's a big undertaking for the director to do. But I honestly feel like they completely failed in that aspect. I've seen a bunch of other reviews where they say, oh yeah, I felt like they really explained really well, whatever. No, they didn't. But I thought they completely failed at explaining how they got from this point to this point. You understand that they're at this point now, but all the stuff in between, it's like, how did you get from there to there? How do you get from there to there? Why is this like this and not, And nobody explains anything really. Pissed me off. And the biggest problem with that is that it made some of the characters' motivations for why they're doing certain things in this movie very hard to understand. But there's a few characters in this movie that I'm just like, why are they making those decisions? Like, it makes no sense, And it wouldn't bother me so much, but with all those problems, they have like these slight ideas hinted in there that like, here's might be why they're acting like this, kinda, sorta, but they don't really explain it, so your mind is just like, there's so much potential there of what they could have done with these backstories and history of some of these people that they just didn't explain. And I almost feel like episode 8 is going to have to be a prequel to explain everything that led up to episode 7, which they're not going to do. So I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm going to trust that maybe they'll do it well. But even if they do it really well in the 8th movie, it doesn't make the 7th movie any better, or, it should be able to stand on its own. And it doesn't, at least in that aspect. Also, the characters I did not like. I'm not going to explain to you why I did not like them in this review. That'll be for the spoiler review. But General Hux, Captain Phasma, Leia, those characters, oh my god. I did not like any of those. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I did not like any of those characters, especially General Hux. Every time he was on screen, I just wanted to fucking slap the shit out of him. I just didn't like him. But Leia, I know a bunch about her from the original trilogy, and I'm sorry, I did not like her in this movie at all. And Captain Phasma, I'll go over it in the spoiler review. I did not like Captain Phasma. I liked the uniform, but the character, no. I think overall, the movie is a good movie. It is by no means a bad movie. It is a good movie. But I do have to do the honor as a critic to be honest with you guys. And there are a lot of flaws with this movie. It is not a perfect movie. It is not these super high ratings that people are giving it. If it was not a Star Wars movie, if it was just a normal movie, I promise you it would not be getting as high ratings as other people are giving it. I think after this movie has been out for a while, I think people will see it a few times. After a while, it'll soak in, and they'll be thinking, okay, it's not as memorable as I was hoping it was going to be. And again, perhaps the next movie, obviously people are going to say, yeah, but they're going to make another movie that explains a bunch of this stuff, and they're going to make another movie that'll utilize these characters more, and blah, blah, blah. That's great. That's great for the next movie, but for this particular movie, that doesn't help anything. The original trilogy, each movie I liked on its own. They all had their flaws too, I acknowledge that. But on their own, they stood as their own movies. People can say, I liked A New Hope. I liked Empire Strikes Back. I liked Return of the Jedi. Each of them have their flaws, their little issues with them, and I could pick those apart too. But the fact is, I loved the original trilogy. The prequels, they had good parts and bad parts too. The bad outweighed the negative. The good definitely outweighs the negative, but I still have to point out the negative to you. I'm probably beating that to a pulp, but I just need to inform you guys, don't go in there thinking it's going to be a super amazing movie, because you might be disappointed. Go in there with reasonable expectations and you'll have a great time. So in the end, I am going to give this movie a friends with benefits. You'll have a great time watching this movie over and over again. So now that you've seen the movie, hopefully, what did you think of it? What were your initial impressions? Please don't leave any spoilers in the comments of this one. Wait till my spoiler review. But leave some comments below. Let me know if you agree with me or not. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And if you want to see some more movie reviews, stick around after this if you can handle it. Go!